Hi, this is Mark of the Wicked Edge Expert Corner, where we talk everything Wicked Edge. And we're going to talk about stones and mediums and grits because that is a often questioned aspect of sharpening with Wicked Edge. Just so you see, I have a few different stones and mediums and grits in the background, whetstones, and I want to discuss this mystery. Part of the system, the Wicked Edge system, and the system used with a lot of the guided sharpener systems, is the stepwise offer of stone mediums that these companies have. Wicked Edge has TS Pro, Hapstone, EP, all of them. You have to understand that they are, and Wicked Edge, are marketing a sharpening system that is all encompassing, that you can buy all of the different stone mediums that you need, compatible, proprietary for the different systems. And the grits often come in tight sequences, where the smaller the number, closer to zero, from 0 to 100, the numbers closer to zero are by convention a coarser, larger, abrasive side, and they leave deeper scratches. As the number gets higher into the thousands, I've seen numbers to 30,000, 50,000 descriptions for fine. It's sort of contrary to what you think, that the higher number is finer, but that's the convention. The systems, the sharpening system that I use, that most of us use, is a stepwise system that we go with what is available, and it is available usually in a tight sequence. Wicked Edge is 100, 200, 400, 600, 800, 1,000. Then they have a 1,500, a 2,200, a 3,000, and then we go to other mediums in the Wicked Edge line. Now, the system, the quote system, is if you follow the system and you just use your Wicked Edge in the normal, regular, simple process of sharpening that they explain very well on the instructional videos. If you follow the Wicked Edge sharpening method and the system, and you start with the lowest grit stone, the lower number is the lower grit, which is a coarser stone. If you start with the lower grit and work sequentially through their grits that they offer in their series, just with basic knowledge and basic experience, you can achieve a very sharp edge. That's the system. If you follow the system, a stepwise process, the way the system is aligned, the grits are sequential from coarser to finer, and if you just follow the system, you'll have good outcomes. That said, to sharpen a knife, you don't have to follow the system. You just need a coarse stone to get your edge aligned and started, a fine stone to put a little bit refinement on that edge, and if you polish it a little bit with the strop, whether you strop it on a towel or your pants leg or a leather belt, you can have a very sharp knife. No system, no sequential, stepwise increase in finer grit. That's for us nuts. That's for us sharpeners that are looking to sharpen to a higher level. We're looking to sharpen because we enjoy sharpening. We enjoy the outcomes, the sharp knife we get to use, the polish. So we want to follow the system. Now, the fear is if you don't follow the system, that you're not going to get the results. And that's sort of true, because if you follow the system using the basic Wicked Edge method, whatever you use, the strokes, edge leading, edge following, whatever, if you follow that course to fine in some sort of a regular standard progression, you'll get good outcomes. And that's how most of the systems work, but like I said, it's not necessary. Now, each medium, diamonds have a scratch pattern that correlates to the size of the abrasive. And as you go through, the smaller abrasives lay down a tighter scratch pattern. It's shallower, it's a narrower individual scratch, and then the multiple scratches are closer together. Contrary, the coarser or deeper scratches further apart, and the scratch pattern, all of the different scratches are wider, and then on a finer, the scratches get closer together. So because of that regularity, that predictability that's labeled by the grit numbers, we work sequentially, and our effort, just doing the same thing over and over again, but choosing a finer and finer stone, gives us that sharpening system, that process. Now you can do the same thing, that's my point, without being so sequential, and you can mix and match mediums. But each medium, even though the mediums are described usually with a low number for coarse and a higher number for fine, mediums each have their own particular scratch pattern associated, and what's the word I'm looking for? It's associated with that medium, and it's consistent with that medium. The associated scratch pattern with the diamond stones is different than the associated scratch pattern with a whetstone, even though this one is a 200 grit and this is a 220 grit. The numbers are very close, but the scratch patterns most probably will be different, but they may be very different. The numbers that describe the coarseness are sequential, like we said at the beginning, but each scale, the diamond stones, the whetstones, the ceramic stones, the lapping films, whether they be diamond or some other abrasive, the strops, depending upon your strop compound, they're labeled by particle size. These particle size are consistent within what you're working with. The strops make sense with the strops, the diamonds with the diamonds, the lapping films with the lapping films. But it's up to us when we mix and match mediums to figure out how they work. The numbers, the description, for instance, the superfine ceramics are 1200, 1600. But that 1200 may be very different than the 1000 grit diamond stone. Even though we try to place the numbers in a counting order, when you swap mediums, switch to a different medium, that scale may shift, and there's some art involved. I say that word art, that word art is freedom. It is the sharpener's freedom to use their common sense to decide what fits and what works. So that's probably the biggest thing that we run into when we mix and match mediums, is understanding that when we start with one medium and we switch to another medium, the scratch patterns may not necessarily match up, and it may take a transition and a little bit of an extra effort to go from this scratch pattern that's like this to go to this scratch pattern that's just a little bit different. So you have to essentially obliterate one, lay down the new one, and refine the new one, and go on from there. Now when we're going from diamonds to one ceramic, like the microfine, which is the 0.6 micron, 1.4, the original Wicked Edge ceramic stone. Then they later on introduced the 1200, 1400. Now you're comparing microns with grit numbers. So we have to end up, all this stuff brings us back, well, how do we compare it all? How do we make sense of it all? And there was a guy that made a universal grit chart where he tried to put all the different stones on the chart, whether it be the Wicked Edge diamond stones or the Atama diamond stones, which are size, which they do have a size for the Wicked Edge. Or we're using the ceramic 1200, 1600, or the microfine, the 0.61.4, and then we're mixing in Shapton whetstones and Chaucer whetstones, and then we have Norton stones, and we have lapping films, and these are all arranged in sizes from finer to coarser, and we're trying to jumble and mix and match and make sense of it so that we sharpening sequentially in our system, where we sharpen from coarse to fine and try to follow that from the beginning with the profile of the edge all the way through to the polish and the lapping. We're trying to arrange it in coarser to finer. And sometimes, like I said, it takes some juggling and some latitude, and it doesn't always make sense. So when we try to mix and match and go from one to the other, the biggest point I want to make is scratch patterns are media related. The scratch pattern you get from a diamond is that diamond scratch pattern, and it may match up as you switch from the diamonds to the ceramics, and it may not, and it may take some doing, and to try to get them all in one line, A to Z, 1 to 100, it's not always as logical as it seems. So you have to have some latitude there. But the point I wanted to make is that we're not that we're stuck in the system, because I use the system. I know how to sharpen, and I understand that I don't need a 220 and a 320 and a 500 and a 1000 and a 1500 and a 2000 and a 3000 and 4000. All I really need is maybe a 500 and a 1500 and a 5000 and a strop, and I can have a very sharp, workable edge. So we have to decide, what are we doing? Are we sharpening knives, or are we enjoying sharpening knives? I'm enjoying sharpening knives. I tend to apply, I'm backing up to show you, I apply that stepwise sharpening system, and I try to keep my grits close, because that's the system that I learned using Wicked Edge with their sequential diamonds. And that's part of the system, besides a great sharpener that allows you to securely vertically clamp your knife and set those angles and sharpen every stone exactly at that same position. Well, you mix the precision of the sharpener with the sequential grits that they offer, then it makes that sharpening device all that better, all that more premier, because not only does it have the precision and the accuracy and the manufacturing and the engineering to hold that knife precisely, you also have the stepwise sequential use in the sharpening system, the WEP system, using the sequential grit. So the two together give you a chance of making those super sharp edges and those mirror polishes, because the consistency is in the device, because the device is manufactured so well. So to repeat it, to put that together with the system, you get great outcomes. But it's a tool, and you don't need to follow the system. You can be that logical person that says, I only need a 200, 600 and a single strop, and I'm good. That's all I need. And I understand that, and I respect that. And I'm trying to find that balance in my own knife sharpening. I take it to the ultimate, down the rabbit hole, looking to sharpen everything to the micron and make it mirror sharp. But that's not necessary. All you need is a coarse grind and a medium grind, or a fine grind and a polish, and you have a sharp edge. That's up to us, and that's why I have all these mediums, so I can pick and choose which grit combination I want to use for which steel for which application. I hope that I tied some of it together so that you could understand, because we get too caught up on the grit. And I bought every grit that Wicked Edge offered. I have had every medium that Wicked Edge had offered since I started buying them. From all the diamonds, the 50/80, all the way through the 3000. I had the microfines and the superfines. I'm not bragging, I'm trying to tell you so you understand that I have the insight and the user experience to talk about them. And I used these stones in my journey through the rabbit hole of Wicked Edge sharpening. I used each of them with my magnification and everything that I did to my fullest ability to see my limitations, my user limitations, using those different mediums. And I know where I can go with my strops. I know where I can go with my ceramics. I know where I can go with the lapping films. And that I'm putting all together now. That's part of the art of sharpening. And I'm going to call it quits now with this, because I could talk mediums and sharpening. We're going to get into it as we go along. I'm trying to lead everybody together on a journey and talk to the newcomers without freaking them out that it's just too much, because some of them just want to buy a Wicked Edge and sharpen a few knives, and it's not till they see how well it works for them that they get into it and get in all in. Then there's the other ones like us that before your order comes, you're ordering more and you're ordering more. So your order comes and the next day you get more accessories, and 2 days later you get more accessories. So then what you have when you're done is you got a Pro Pack kit that Wicked Edge never offered, and you have everything that they manufactured. So enjoy your journey. I did. I love to play with all this stuff, and I love to talk about it and share it with you. Thanks.